Hi everyone. In case you don't know me, I'm Paul, Connie's husband. It's been almost a year since George's passing, and because of the COVID restrictions, we've never really had the opportunity to actually say goodbye. Our family wanted to do something to remember George by, so this was what we came up with. We hope you enjoy it as much as we did in making it. If you're wondering why I'm sitting on a backhoe, it seemed like the most appropriate place when we're remembering George. Please feel free to pass this on to anyone you feel might appreciate it. George William Davenport was born in Englewood, New Jersey on April 26, 1937, and passed away in Middletown, New York on November 4th, 2020. George was a respected man, a good father, loving husband, a tough critic, always dependable, amazingly capable, overly humble, always morally right, and sometimes legally wrong. I met George for the first time in the fall of 1982 when I came to his house in Johnson, New York to take his youngest daughter, Connie, to a movie. I was 3 years older than Connie, who was still in high school, had my own place, and the fact that she didn't know my last name only added to the trepidation that he and his wife, Marge, felt that night. I entered the house to find George sitting on the couch with no intention of getting up and no real interest in welcoming me. I did appreciate that he was neither cleaning a gun nor sharpening a knife, so I figured it was even money he'd eventually approve of me. I sat down waiting for Connie, who was upstairs getting ready and making me suffer, and did my best to make small talk, like where I grew up, what I did for a living, and any other menial facts that would kill some time. It was at this point everything changed for the better. I happened to mention my sister lived in Port Jervis, and this information was an immediate game changer. George sat up and began questioning me as to what people she knew in Port. I told him she was married to the son of Harrison Coleman, who owned a service station in Port Jervis, much like his father did. He informed me that they knew Harrison, and from that point on, it was smooth sailing. I believe that was the first time I heard George utter those immortal words, "There are two kinds of people who live in this world, those who live in Port Jervis and everyone else who wish they did." George and I became good friends from that point on, and even though I was Catholic and didn't like Fords, would spend the next 35 plus years putting on or repairing countless roofs, installing dozens of septic systems, fixing up trucks and tractors, and laying yards and yards of carpeting, as well as helping him fix up his many rental houses. I learned a tremendous amount from George, and I'm proud to say most of the repairs I do on my own vehicles or houses today come from the knowledge I acquired from him. I also learned from George that the more you stir a septic tank, the more it stinks. In a septic system, the waste all flows downhill. Never deal with a man who smokes a big cigar and drives a Cadillac. No man is so big he can't be brought down by a 2x4 or a gun. And getting knocked in a hole by a backhoe when someone isn't watching doesn't hurt nearly as much as you might think. George was an avid auction goer, buying trucks, cars, tractors, park benches, bricks, and anything else that he could make a buck on. Sometimes even sending others with a list to bid for items pre-selected by him while he worked at the Ford plant in Mahwah, New Jersey. George had auction buying down to a science, as he would cock his hat to one side and scratch his toe in the dirt and yell a bid of $2 just to get things going. This was his signature move. I was lucky enough to go with George on one occasion to an auction in Poughkeepsie, New York, where I watched him work his magic of commanding the flow of the bidding as he bought one item after another. It was great to see how happy he was during this process, and impressive to see the respect he was given by the other bidders and auctioneer as well. George was truly in his element. The best part of that day was when George offered to buy me lunch from the lunch truck that was on site. It was a simple meal, 14 hot dogs and 2 large Cokes. George was a bona fide tube steak connoisseur. George was the true originator of the art of the deal. Years after I met him, I was managing the Agway in New Paltz, New York, and was flattered when George came to me to ask if I could get him a lawn tractor that he was in the market for. After everything he had helped me with over the years, it was finally my chance to pay him back by getting him the tractor at a significant discount. He came to the store, looked at the unit, and was happy with what he saw. I let him know the price and was sure he would be impressed with the deal. After a few minutes of silence, With his hat cocked and his toe scratching the ground, I knew I was in trouble. He looked up and said, "If I pick it up, can you knock off the sales tax?" The king ruled once more. George was amazingly generous to his friends and neighbors and was always the go-to guy when one of them had a problem. I don't think he ever said no to someone in need. His family was no exception and always came first no matter what. Not one to gush or use a lot of verbiage to let them know how much he cared. His actions spoke for him. In need of a set of bunk beds at college, Bonnie needed only to ask, and George built a set in Johnson and delivered them to Lebanon Valley College and assembled them in her room. Connie one time blew the engine in her car going up Greenville Mountain and was sure her life was over. A call to George in New Jersey was all it took, and upon coming home, worked well into the night to get a new engine installed and Connie back on the road. John, loving to ride motorcycles and snowmobiles with his friends, could always count on his dad to cart the machines back and forth from town to town, wherever they were needed. George would seem almost uncaring about the report cards the kids would bring home from school, but they found out years later he would take them with him to work and proudly show them off to his co-workers. George truly loved Marge and always wanted the best for her. Taking her to see Johnny Cash, doing a two-tone paint job on her station wagon, and taking her on many trips was just a few of the things he did for her over the years. One such trip to Maine found him rebuilding the trailer axle with 2x4s minutes before they were supposed to leave in order to keep the trip from being canceled. George was a true innovator, and I'm sure he looked at her and said, "Toots, this is for you." George's love of family continued with his sister Adele, his brother Ed, his many nieces and nephews and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, where he never thought twice about traveling to countless events that they were involved in. He was involved in building race cars, making dog jumps, and was always thrilled to provide money for last-minute Christmas shopping. George absolutely loved the holidays and always looked forward to everyone getting together for a good meal and a lot of laughter. The stock car races in Middletown were a great love for George, and he and the family went almost every week. At the end of racing one night, he even snuck out on the track with the family station wagon and decided to see what she could do. The unseat belted kids in the back only added to the fun. After these racing nights, Bonnie and Connie would pretend to be asleep so he would carry them up to the bed when they got home. They said he never guessed they were faking it, but I think differently. Another fun event was heading to Monticello Racetrack to see the horses run. Getting there was half the fun, as he would take his Plymouth Fury with the 440 high-performance engine up Route 17 to see what top speed was. His mom, Emma, was in the car with them on one of these trips and let him know through loud screams that she was not in favor of this idea. George claimed he only went there to buy the horses a bale of hay with what he lost, but I know that he was not a huge bettor, and when he would hit for $2, it would go into his pocket. He was done for the night. He'd go home a winner and proud to beat the house. These are some of the stories I know about, and realize there are countless more that all of you have and could be written about for hours, but the bottom line is that George was simply a good man. He cared about his family. He cared about his neighbors. He cared about people. He wasn't a scholar, never read a lot of books, but he was probably one of the most intelligent people I ever met in a blue-collar way. He had an amazing talent for being able to do things that other people couldn't or were too afraid to try. If he didn't know how to do something, he figured it out and taught himself. Google never instructed George. He was respected by everyone and was honest to a fault. He had more integrity than anyone I've ever known and stood by his convictions. He didn't back down. He was never intimidated. I think we are all better people for having him in our lives, and we should remember all he did. Every time we have a hot dog, eat a vanilla wafer, hear a Mickey Gilley song, watch James Dean and Rebel Without a Cause, or see a Ford on the road. But more than that, we should help someone who is in need and expect nothing in return, as George did a million times. I think of him often and will miss him always.
pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Quiet thoughts come floating down and settle softly to the ground like gold of autumn leaves around my feet. I touch them and they burst apart with sweet memories. Sweet memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilights trimmed in purple haze and laughing eyes and simple ways and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Memories, memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilights trimmed in purple haze and laughing eyes and simple ways and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Memories, memories, sweet memories, memories.
Last night we brought the children by to visit their grandpa, and it's plain to see they're truly part of him. While we were there, their grandma took out some old photographs, and he sure looked a lot like me that day. I'm seeing my father in me. I guess that's how it's meant to be. And I find I'm more and more like him each day. I notice I walk the way he walks. I notice I talk the way he talks. I'm starting to see my father in me. And today I took my wife for a walk down that old dirt road where my daddy took my mom so many times. And we found the time to mention things we never had before and share some thoughts about the family life. I'm seeing my father in me. I guess that's how it's meant to be. And I find I'm more and more like him each day. I notice I walk the way he walks. I notice I talk the way he talks. I'm starting to see my father in me. Now looking back, I can recall the times we disagreed, when I could not take hold of his old-fashioned way. he still stood by me when I went through that stage. I'm seeing my father in me. I guess that's how it's meant to be. And I find I'm more and more like him each day. I notice I walk the way he walks. I notice I talk the way he talks. I'm starting to see my father in me. And I'm happy to see my father in me.
Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy. Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. Did lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may? Is a promise really something people kept, not just something they would say? Families really bow their heads to pray. Daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Everything is changing fast. We call it progress, but I just don't know. And Grandpa, let's wander back into the past, then paint me the picture of long ago. Lovers really fall in love to stay, stand beside each other, come what may? Is a promise really something people kept, not just something they would say and then forget? Families really bow their heads to pray. Daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Families really bow their heads to pray. Daddies really never go away.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall, and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got, if not himself? Then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my yes, it was my way.
You shall cross the barren desert, but you shall not die of thirst. You shall wander far in safety
safety, though you do not know the way. You shall speak your words to foreign men, and they will understand. You shall see the face of God and live. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. If you pass through raging waters in the sea, you shall not drown. If you walk amid the burning flames, you shall not be harmed. If you stand before the power of hell and death is at your side, know that I am with you through it all. Be not afraid. I go before you always. Come, follow me, and I will give you rest. And blessed are your poor, for the kingdom shall be theirs. Blessed are you that weep and mourn, for one day you shall laugh. And if wicked men insult and hate you all because of me, blessed